For nearly 3,000 years, the Zarithi Imperium ruled the known galaxy through fear. Their fleets stretched across thousands of star systems. Their warships blotted out suns. Their banners flew over worlds that had forgotten what freedom even meant. Every civilization eventually bowed before the Imperium. Those who resisted disappeared into history. The Zarithi had one simple belief: power decided truth. If your fleet was larger, your laws became universal. If your weapons were stronger, your morality became justice. And for 3 millennia, no one had proven them wrong. Until humanity arrived. Earth entered the Galactic Council only 28 years earlier. Compared to the ancient civilizations, humans were newcomers. Our colonies were few. Our military was classified. Our technology looked ordinary. At least that's what everyone believed. Humans traded peacefully, honored agreements, and rarely displayed military strength. While other empires organized massive military parades, Earth's ambassadors spent their time negotiating trade routes, scientific exchanges, and disaster relief. Many species interpreted kindness as weakness. The Zarithi Emperor certainly did. Inside the massive council chamber on Nova Prime, representatives from nearly every intelligent civilization gathered for the annual summit. Floating holograms displayed military rankings, economic influence, territorial control. Predictably, the Zarithi Imperium stood at number 1. Applause echoed through the chamber. Then Emperor Kaler rose from his throne. Nearly 4 meters tall, wrapped in black and gold armor, the ruler smiled as he looked across the assembly. His eyes stopped on the human delegation. Representative Morgan. The human ambassador stood calmly. "Yes, Your Majesty?" Kaler laughed. "I've reviewed your species." A massive holographic image of Earth appeared. So small. Another laugh spread through the chamber. So insignificant. Even several allied species lowered their eyes. The Emperor continued. "You humans still believe diplomacy can replace strength." He leaned forward. "You survive only because no one considers you worth conquering." More laughter. The cameras focused on Ambassador Morgan. Everyone expected anger. Embarrassment. Fear. Instead, Morgan simply smiled. "I appreciate your concern." The Emperor frowned. "You misunderstand." Morgan continued calmly. "Humanity has no desire to compete with the Imperium." Another wave of laughter. Kaler spread his arms dramatically. "Then perhaps humanity should officially recognize the superiority of the Zarithi Empire." Silence filled the chamber. Billions watched the live broadcast across the galaxy. Morgan looked directly into the Emperor's eyes. Then spoke words that would later appear in every history book. "We recognize only one thing." The room became perfectly silent. The consequences of arrogance. The Emperor burst into laughter. "So the children threaten lions?" Even members of the council laughed openly now. Kaler waved dismissively. "You have 48 hours. Morgan remained expressionless. "For what?" "To apologize publicly." "And if we don't?" The Emperor smiled. "Then Earth will become another forgotten colony beneath the Imperium." Morgan slowly nodded. "As you wish." Without another word, the entire human delegation stood together, collected their documents, and walked out of the Galactic Council. No shouting, no threats, no dramatic speeches, just silence. Across the galaxy, commentators mocked humanity. 48 hours until Earth's surrender. The shortest diplomatic crisis in history. The Imperium finally disciplines the upstart humans. Markets predicted Earth's collapse. Military analysts estimated the war would last less than 6 hours. Even humanity's allies quietly prepared refugee programs. No one noticed one small detail. Within minutes of leaving the council, every human embassy in known space closed simultaneously. Every civilian transport disappeared from hyperspace lanes. Every Terran merchant vessel turned toward home. Earth issued only a single public transmission. No explanation. No argument. Just 8 words. All citizens are advised to return home immediately. Across human space. Shipyards stopped producing civilian vessels. Factories switched to emergency production. Orbital stations sealed their docks. Deep beneath mountains, doors that had never opened before slowly began to unlock. Ancient reactors awakened. Hidden fleets powered online. And somewhere far beyond explored space, something enormous received a signal it had been waiting centuries to hear. Protocol Ragnarok has been authorized. The galaxy celebrated. News channels replayed the confrontation between Emperor Kaler and Ambassador Morgan every hour. Across thousands of worlds, commentators laughed at humanity's quiet departure from the Galactic Council. The humans finally realized their place. They're evacuating because they know resistance is impossible. The Imperium has won without firing a shot. Only one group remained strangely silent. The humans. No speeches. No military broadcasts. No declarations of war. Just silence. To the Zarithi Imperium, that silence looked like fear. To humanity, it was preparation. Exactly 12 hours after the council meeting, the Zarithi High Command gathered inside the Imperial War Citadel. A holographic map of human territory floated above the chamber. Grand Admiral Vorak confidently pointed toward Earth. Our reconnaissance confirms what we've always believed. He zoomed in. Only 37 major defense fleets. Several admirals laughed. The Imperium alone possessed over 12,000 battle fleets. Victory seemed inevitable. Our attack will begin in 36 hours, Vorak announced. We will capture Earth within 6. Emperor Kaler smiled. I want the council watching live. They mocked us with riddles. We'll answer with conquest. The room erupted in applause. Far away, deep inside the Sol system, Earth looked peaceful. Families still walked through parks. Children played beneath blue skies. Cities remained calm. To anyone watching from orbit, nothing had changed. But beneath the surface, everything had. More than 5 kilometers below the Himalayas, massive blast doors slowly opened for the first time in nearly 400 years. Thousands of engineers stood silently as enormous machines awakened. Fusion reactors brighter than miniature suns came online. Entire underground shipyards illuminated at once. Gigantic vessels, hidden from the galaxy for centuries, rested inside mountain-sized construction bays. Each ship dwarfed anything the Galactic Council had ever recorded. One engineer whispered, "They're finally waking them." An elderly commander nodded. They were never built for conquest. They were built for this day. At the same time, on the dark side of Pluto, an asteroid suddenly split apart. It wasn't an asteroid. It was camouflage. Hidden inside waited an ancient defense platform stretching nearly 200 kilometers across. Power surged through its systems. Massive rail cannons rotated toward deep space. Artificial intelligence cores awakened one after another. A calm synthetic voice echoed through the station. Protocol Ragnarok confirmed. Defense Network Alpha online. Then another station activated. Then another. Hundreds of them. Every hidden fortress humanity had secretly constructed over generations began waking simultaneously. None had ever appeared on a galactic registry. No alien intelligence service had discovered them. Humanity had hidden an entire military civilization beneath the appearance of a peaceful republic. Meanwhile, Imperial scouts approached the edge of human territory. Their orders were simple: observe, report, intimidate. Instead, their sensors began malfunctioning. Commander, I'm detecting gravitational distortions. Impossible energy signatures. Thousands, millions of contacts. The commander frowned. Increase resolution. The display sharpened. Silence filled the bridge. Every contact had suddenly disappeared. 1 second later, a transmission arrived. No encryption. No identification. Just a calm human voice. You were warned. Before anyone could respond, every scout ship simultaneously lost power. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Communications offline. Not destroyed. Simply disabled. For exactly 60 seconds. When power returned, the human contacts were gone. as if they had never existed. The frightened scouts immediately transmitted an emergency report back to Emperor Kaler. The Emperor barely glanced at it. Experimental cloaking tricks. Nothing more. He deleted the report. It would become the greatest mistake of his reign. With only 24 hours remaining before the Imperium's invasion, humanity transmitted one final diplomatic message to the Zarithi Empire. It contained only a single sentence. Leave now, and history will remember your empire with dignity. Emperor Kaler read the message before his entire court. Then he laughed louder than ever. History remembers only the victorious. He stood from his throne and raised his hand. Prepare the invasion fleet. Across imperial space, over 100,000 warships entered hyperspace. The largest invasion force ever assembled in galactic history was now heading toward Earth. The galaxy watched with excitement. They expected humanity's defeat. Instead, they were about to witness the impossible. 24 hours after the Emperor's ultimatum, the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. More than 100,000 Imperial warships stretched across the darkness like a sea of black steel. Titan-class dreadnoughts formed the center of the formation, surrounded by carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and millions of autonomous attack drones. To every observer watching the live broadcast, the outcome seemed obvious. Earth had no chance. Emperor Kaler stood aboard his flagship, Imperator Eternal, smiling as billions across the galaxy watched history unfold. Open a channel, he ordered. Moments later, Ambassador Morgan appeared on the main screen. He looked exactly as calm as he had in the Galactic Council. Kaler laughed. Your 48 hours are almost over. Morgan simply nodded. They are. Will humanity surrender? For a brief moment, silence filled both bridges. Then Morgan replied. No. Kaler's smile widened. Then prepare to become a lesson. Morgan looked directly into the Emperor's eyes. The lesson has already begun. The transmission ended. Without warning, every star around the Imperial fleet seemed to flicker. Thousands of officers looked at their sensors in confusion. Energy spike detected. Source unknown. Impossible gravitational fluctuations. Before anyone could identify the anomaly, space itself cracked open. Not with hyperspace. Not with warp. Something else. Massive circular tiers appeared across the battlefield. 10, 100, then thousands. From each opening emerged gigantic human warships unlike anything ever recorded. They weren't kilometers long. They were dozens of kilometers long. Their white and silver armor reflected the sunlight like moving mountains. Brilliant blue energy lines pulsed across their hulls, while enormous rail cannons slowly rotated toward the stunned Imperial fleet. Each carried the same symbol. The Imperial bridge fell completely silent. An officer whispered, "Where were they hiding?" No one answered. Because the answer was impossible. Then the impossible became terrifying. More portals opened. Entire battle groups emerged in perfect formation. Carrier fortresses, planetary siege ships, orbital defense platforms, drone motherships. Within 3 minutes, humanity had deployed a fleet larger than the entire Imperial Navy. Grand Admiral Vorik stared at the tactical display. This can't be real. The computer disagreed. Estimated human combat vessels. 487,000. The bridge froze. That number exceeded the combined military strength of every major empire in the galaxy. Emperor Kaler's confidence disappeared for the first time. How? Morgan's earlier words echoed in his mind. The consequences of arrogance. Then another warning appeared. Unknown objects entering the system. Every sensor turned toward deep space. What they detected made experienced admirals forget how to breathe. A moon-sized structure emerged slowly from darkness. Then another. Then another. Ancient Terran Titans. Each one was over 300 kilometers long. Built centuries before humanity had joined the Galactic Council. Hidden beyond explored space. Waiting for an enemy powerful enough to justify their existence. The lead Titan transmitted a single message. Its voice was calm, cold, almost emotionless. Terran's strategic command acknowledges hostile invasion. The pause. Authorization granted. Another pause. Neutralization begins. The Imperial fleet opened fire. Millions of plasma lances crossed space. Enough firepower to destroy planets. The galaxy expected explosions. Instead, every human ship activated shimmering blue energy fields. The plasma vanished against the shields. Not weakened. Not slowed. Simply gone. Imperial officers stared in disbelief. Their strongest weapons had accomplished absolutely nothing. Then humanity answered. One Titan fired. Just once. A brilliant blue beam crossed millions of kilometers in less than a heartbeat. When it reached the Imperial formation, an entire battle group disappeared. Not damaged. Not burning. Gone. Over 2,000 warships ceased to exist in a single flash of light. Across the galaxy, every live broadcast suddenly went silent. The impossible had happened. The strongest empire in history had just realized. It wasn't the strongest anymore. Silence spread across the galaxy. Billions of viewers watched in disbelief as the tactical displays updated in real time. Imperial losses, 2,184 warships. Human losses, 0. For the first time in over 3,000 years, the Zarithi Imperium had been struck by an enemy it couldn't even comprehend. Aboard the Imperator Eternal, panic began replacing confidence. "Your Majesty," an officer shouted. "The first battle group has been completely annihilated." Another voice followed. "Our long-range cannons are ineffective. Missile salvos intercepted. Electronic warfare systems are being overridden." Grand Admiral Vorak clenched his fists. "Order every fleet forward. Surround them. Crush them with numbers." Thousands of Imperial warships surged ahead, filling space with endless streams of plasma, antimatter torpedoes, and kinetic rounds. The darkness between the stars became a storm of fire. Humanity moved. The Terran fleet didn't charge recklessly. Instead, every ship maneuvered with perfect precision, as though an invisible mind coordinated hundreds of thousands of vessels at once. Entire formations shifted in synchronized patterns. Enemy firing lanes disappeared before the weapons were even discharged. Imperial missiles suddenly changed direction and exploded harmlessly in empty space. Carrier groups released millions of autonomous drones. But these weren't ordinary drones. Each one carried adaptive artificial intelligence, constantly learning from every second of combat. Within minutes, they predicted Imperial attack patterns before they happened. The Zarithi had spent centuries perfecting warfare. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting adaptation. Then the Titans advanced. The moon-sized warships moved slowly, almost peacefully. Their massive hulls glowed with blue-white energy. One Imperial commander laughed nervously. "They're too large to maneuver." He never finished the sentence. The lead Titan vanished. Not through hyperspace. Not through warp. It simply disappeared. A heartbeat later, it reappeared directly behind the Imperial command fleet. Every officer aboard the Imperator Eternal stared in horror. Impossible! The Titan's primary cannons slowly aligned. Its AI transmitted one final warning. Hostile command structure identified. Final opportunity to withdraw. Emperor Kaler slammed his fist onto the command console. "Fire everything!" Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously. The Titan didn't evade. It didn't raise stronger shields. It absorbed the barrage as though the attacks were little more than rain against a mountain. Then the cannon fired. A brilliant pillar of blue light crossed the battlefield. The Imperial flagship's shields collapsed instantly. Armor plating melted away. Entire sections of the vessel vanished into glowing particles. Only an emergency quantum displacement field prevented immediate destruction. The Imperator Eternal barely escaped, crippled and burning. Across the battlefield, the Imperial fleet descended into chaos. Without centralized coordination, formations collapsed. Ships collided while attempting emergency jumps. Communication relays failed. Navigation satellites went dark. Then humanity launched its final phase. Deep beneath the oceans of Earth, hidden launch silos opened for the first time in history. Thousands of orbital defense platforms emerged into space. From secret facilities beneath the moon. From hollowed asteroids in the asteroid belt. From stations hidden behind the gas giants. Humanity's true defense network awakened. More than 1 million autonomous defense platforms locked onto hostile targets. The galaxy had believed Earth possessed only one solar system. They now discovered humanity had transformed the entire Sol system into a single, interconnected fortress. There was no weak point. There was no blind spot. There was no escape. Emperor Kaler stared at the tactical display as red warning symbols covered the screen. One by one, entire Imperial fleets disappeared. Not because every ship was destroyed. Because their commanders surrendered. Veteran admirals realized the battle could no longer be won. They ordered retreats. Some shut down their weapons. Others broadcast distress signals. But the ancient Terran AI ignored panic. It recognized only one thing. The invasion was still active. The countdown reached 0. Exactly 48 hours after Emperor Kaler had mocked humanity before the Galactic Council, Terran Strategic Command transmitted one final message across every military frequency. Operation Ragnarok enters its final stage. And every civilization watching understood the terrible truth. The war had never truly begun. Humanity had only been removing the Imperium's ability to fight. Exactly 48 hours after Emperor Kaler had mocked humanity before the Galactic Council, the final phase of Operation Ragnarok began. Across the galaxy, every military command center, news network, and civilian observatory watched in stunned silence. No one spoke. No one cheered. History itself seemed to pause. The once invincible Zarithi Imperium, the civilization that had ruled the stars for over 3,000 years, was collapsing before everyone's eyes. Aboard the crippled flagship Imperator Eternal, warning alarms echoed through every corridor. Emergency power at 12%. Hyperdrive offline. Defense grid destroyed. Our outer fleets have surrendered. Grand Admiral Vorak looked at the tactical display in disbelief. Entire Imperial sectors were turning gray. Not because they had been destroyed, because they had stopped fighting. Planetary governors were broadcasting unconditional surrender. Military commanders were refusing orders. Even elite admirals understood the truth. There was no weapon capable of stopping humanity. Emperor Kaler stared silently at the screen. Only 2 days earlier, he had believed Earth would fall in 6 hours. Now, his empire was disappearing in less than 48. On Earth, inside the Terran Strategic Command Complex beneath the Alps, Ambassador Morgan stood beside Fleet Marshal Elena Hayes. A young officer asked quietly, "Marshal, should we continue?" Hayes looked toward the giant holographic map. Millions of hostile weapons had already been disabled. Enemy communications were completely under Terran control. Every surviving Imperial fleet had been surrounded. Victory was absolute. She shook her head. No. The room became silent. Our objective was never revenge. It was to end the threat. She gave her final command. Cease offensive operations. Across hundreds of thousands of Terran warships, the order spread instantly. Every cannon powered down. Every missile lock disappeared. Every Titan stopped advancing. The battlefield fell silent. Humanity had proven its strength. There was no need to prove cruelty. Minutes later, every communication network in the galaxy received a live transmission from Ambassador Morgan. Behind him floated the blue and white image of Earth. He spoke calmly. We warned the Imperium. We offered peace. We offered dignity. They chose arrogance. He paused as billions listened. Power without wisdom creates tyranny. Strength without restraint creates monsters. Humanity has no interest in ruling the galaxy. We will not build an empire upon fear. Another pause. Our fleets came not to conquer. They came to ensure that no civilization will ever again believe that might alone grants the right to dominate others. The transmission ended. There were no celebrations. Only silence. 3 days later, representatives from every surviving civilization gathered once again inside the Galactic Council. The black and gold banners of the Zarithi Imperium had been removed forever. In their place stood a simple blue flag, Earth's flag, not above the Council, beside every other member. When Ambassador Morgan entered the chamber, every delegate stood. Not because anyone ordered them to, because respect had replaced fear. The elderly chancellor slowly approached Morgan. "What does humanity demand for saving the galaxy?" Morgan smiled. "Nothing." The chancellor blinked. "Nothing? We ask only one thing." The chamber waited. Morgan looked around at every species. "Build a galaxy where no child fears an empire. For if another rises," he glanced toward the stars beyond the chamber windows, "humanity will answer again." Years later, historians would write that the Zarithi Imperium had not truly been destroyed by Terran weapons. It had been destroyed by its own arrogance. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for the day someone mistook peace for weakness. When that day finally came, the war lasted less than 48 hours. The empire vanished, and the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. The strongest civilization is not the one that seeks war. It is the one powerful enough to end it.